Good evening. We want to welcome all of you to the joint meeting of the Cotati City Council and the successor agency to the former Cotati Community Redevelopment Agency. And we want to start with a call to order and a roll call.
Councilmember Savage,
Here.
Councilmember Sparks,
Here.
Councilmember Ford,
Here.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Here.
Mayor Lemus.
Here. Thank you. Next item we have is approval of minutes and notice of waiving of reading of all resolutions and ordinances introduced and are adopted under this agenda. And we have the regular meeting minutes from there's a typo, May 26th? Because May 16th was a Saturday.
It's correct on the minutes themselves, though.
And the minutes themselves are correct. So just on the agenda, it's incorrect. Okay. Okay, so any questions or anything else? No? Okay. Can we get public comment on that? We'll open up to online first.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. Seeing no hands on Zoom.
Okay, in the room, is there anyone that would like to make a comment on the approval of minutes from May 26th? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a vote of any other questions or comments? Okay, how about a motion?
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And the next item, we have a proclamation of the City Council of City of Cotati celebrating Juneteenth, and we're turning that over to Councilmember Ben Ford.
Thank you. It's my honor to read this proclamation today and then invite our recipients to come up and say a few words about the occasion and their organization. So this is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati celebrating Juneteenth. Whereas on June 19, 1865, nearly 9 decades after our nation's founding and more than 2 years after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, enslaved Americans in Galveston, Texas finally received word that they were free from bondage and were recognized for the first time as citizens. And whereas Black Americans came to commemorate Juneteenth with celebrations across the country, building new lives and a new tradition that we honor today. And whereas in its celebration of freedom, Juneteenth is a day that should be recognized by all Americans. And whereas Juneteenth is a day in which we remember the moral stain and terrible toll of slavery on our country. And whereas Juneteenth is also a day that reminds us of our incredible capacity to heal, hope, and emerge from our darkest moments with purpose and resolve. And whereas we celebrate the centuries of struggle, courage, and hope that have brought us to this time of progress and possibility, and everyday Americans who have helped make real the ideals of our founding documents for all. And whereas on Juneteenth we recommit ourselves to the work of equity, equality, and justice. Now therefore, be it proclaimed on this day of June 9th, 2026 by the City Council that the City of Cotati hereby celebrates June 19th, 2026 as Juneteenth. And so we are honored to present this, and I'd like to invite up members of the Black Faculty and Staff Association from Sonoma State University. Tremaine Austin Dillon is Senior Diversity Officer and a longtime friend and collaborator on projects at Sonoma State, and I'll let him introduce others with him.
Thank you so much to the council, mayor, and community members for having us here. I'm Tremaine Austin Dillon, Senior Diversity Officer at Sonoma State University, and I'm joined by
Ishai Zuniga, the Associate Director in Pre-Collegiate Programs at Sonoma State University.
And I'm Cabrina Boyd. I'm an admissions specialist at Sonoma State University.
And we represent the Black Faculty Staff Association on our campus. The BFSA was started in 2018, and it supports Black faculty and staff through a variety of services like programming and just a lot of community building at Sonoma State. We are about less than 2% of the actual population on our campus, and so it's really important to have this organization on our campus. And it means a lot to receive this proclamation. I received this proclamation not only as a representative of the university, but as a member of the Sonoma County community, and as a senior diversity officer whose work centers the success, the belonging, the joy, and the excellence of Black students, faculty, and staff. Juneteenth is sacred because it calls us to remember to celebrate and to continue the work of freedom. It reminds us that Black history is American history and that Black futures must be nurtured with intention, care, and action. At Sonoma State, our commitment is to build a campus where Black students, faculty, and staff are not simply included, but are seen, valued, and supported, and also celebrated. As a member of this community, I personally am grateful to the City of Cotati for recognizing Juneteenth and for standing with us in the ongoing work of equity, justice, and belonging. I would also like to invite members of this body and those watching at home to join our Sonoma State community for our Juneteenth celebrations. We'll be having a watch party of the CSU Symposium on this Thursday, June 11th, from 10 to 12. We'll also be raising the Juneteenth flag at Sonoma State University on June 18th at noon at the flagpoles. And then finally, we're going to be having a Juneteenth luncheon that's going to be catered by a Black-owned business, Everett and Jones Barbecue in Rohnert Park. And that will be on June 19th, the day of Juneteenth, from 11 to 2. That is a event that you have to register for, but there is a link on the SSU website if you search for it to register. And I just want to say thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to anybody else that wanted to make any comments. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. And if you wouldn't mind staying up here so we can take a picture?
Oh, sure.
If you're okay with that. That would be lovely. All right.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much. It's nice seeing you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item we have is agenda review. Is there any changes to the agenda?
No proposed changes, Mayor. Thanks.
Changes? Okay. Citizens' business and public comment for consent calendar items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any item listed on the consent calendar or any matter not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to City Council Policy 2025-03, comments of any member of the public are normally restricted to a total of 3 minutes in length per person for matters not on the agenda and a total of 3 minutes per person in length for any and all items on the consent calendar. The mayor may extend the time limit for a reasonable time where a disability accommodation has been requested. To facilitate public comment, the timer indicator lights will display yellow when there are 30 seconds remaining and red when time has expired. So we'll start in the room. Is there anyone in the room that would like to make a citizen business or public comment for consent calendar items? Okay, not seeing any, we'll go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori. You have the floor.
Hi. For my citizens' business comment, I would like to ask for Sylvia Lemus to drop out of the 2nd District Board of Supervisors race immediately. My first reason is that she used Cotati Housing Initiatives that we citizens paid with our few Cotati dollars to her personal and political gain in the race. She misrepresented the realities of the city that we had only built 3 housing units this year, with her campaign saying that she delivers affordable housing, for example. Misrepresenting the truth of the situation that brought in the building trades and real estate monies to her campaign led to an unfair, out of balance race. Starting a county supervisor role based on unfair, unbalanced election voting is not the way to go. The second reason is that Sylvia Loomis and the council members probably will be named in the code enforcement scandals federal lawsuit that was filed about 3 weeks ago. Sylvia voted to fund the scandal in February 2026 with a budget amendment specifically to cover up the code enforcement scandal's costs, like the other council members did that night. I had warned Sylvia and the rest of you council members of the situation with the code enforcement being out of control since November 2023. Now there is a huge federal lawsuit. It's not the way a supervisor should be starting a political career on the county level. This was all on your watch, Sylvia. Please immediately withdraw from the second district supervisor's race so it's a fair and untainted race in November. The other thing is I wanted to ask if the staff or the council, they took out Golden Gate Transit and with the, going through Gatati with, I'm thinking cahoots, that's the wrong word, but anyway, mascot program. And the funding for the only bus that will pick up from Marin County to Sonoma County is after the last train leaves is only gone till June 30th. And so I wish they would, you guys would work on getting that funded. It was a mitigation effort, but there's going to be people stranded overnight in San Rafael and Marin County from work that will have missed the last train. And it's about a $50 Uber ride. So, okay, thanks.
Seeing no further hands, that will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item we have is consent calendar. Is there any questions from council? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So that passes. The next item is direction of future agenda items. Does anyone have any future agenda items? Okay. The next item is a public hearing. So for the public hearing, we have the annual city fee schedule update and adoption. Is there a presentation on that?
Yes, Mayor, I have a brief presentation on this. So this is something the council sees every year, even though there is already the pre-existing authority to do most of what this is that you see in the packet tonight. So many of the fees adjust either by the consumer price index or the construction cost index. And that's the vast majority of the changes in the fee schedule tonight. There are a couple things I'll just point out that are just worth mentioning that are sort of different than the normal annual adjustment. One is, or it's a handful of them. So one of them is that there's a water conservation impact fee, which is an older fee, and we actually, in our water and sewer rates, we actually collect funds for that now. So the proposal was just to remove that fee and keep it focused on the water and sewer rates, which already collect funds for those programs. And then in the effort to try to consolidate all of the development fees in one place. So if someone's looking at our fee schedule, they can see, if they're, if they're a builder or a developer, they could see all the different fees that would apply to them, all in one location on the fee schedule. There is an added, just a heading really, for the Cotati-Rohnert Park School District. So they do have an impact fee, and the fee itself isn't shown in the schedule, but the link to where the fee exists on their website, so they can, just again, so they have a full picture of all the different costs that would be involved in building or developing. And then the last thing I'll just point out is that in a prior council meeting, there was a conversation that, that the council had about community gatherings and specifically block parties and waiving fees for block parties. But we wanted to just memorialize that and make sure that we understood the direction correctly. So what it basically says in the fee schedule is that if you are if you're like a community block party and you want to close down like a dead-end street, like a cul-de-sac, you can do that at no cost. So we don't charge you for that, which is different than like when you do when we have the shop and stroll, that's sort of the other end of the spectrum where you're shutting down a railroad highway. There's significant detour and traffic control type requirements, and that would still be an event that would have a permit fee. But for the neighborhood, like a neighborhood that doesn't really require any sort of traffic control, it's literally just barricading the end of a street. They can borrow barricades from us, and there's minimal coordination with emergency services and those types of things. So that's the footnote that you see in the fee schedules to try to identify that particular type of neighborhood party, specifically dead-end roads, that would be exempt from any sort of event fee. And aside from that, I think the rest are fairly straightforward routine changes. But I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, Councilmember Sparks?
Thank you. Two questions. One was about the dead-end street. There are quite a lot of streets that are not dead ends, but it'd be really easy to block off one side of them because there's two ways in, and it just seems like not very many people actually live on a cul-de-sac as a percentage of our population. So this wouldn't. Is there what would the fee be for a sort of neighborhood block party? It's nothing like Old Redwood Highway, but just closing off like a really minor segment of a residential street where there's an easy second way around.
Yeah, that would be special events that are not in parks, and it is. No, give me a second. I'll come back to that. And I'll try to find it for
It's
you.
$142 plus a
Deposit.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question was just about, I noticed there was a fee added to place the banner over Old Redwood Highway. Wanted to make sure I was understanding that banner fee was to put up the big banner.
It's the big banner that goes across.
Yeah, and then I just had a question, like how many times a year do we put that up for non-city events?
We have a handful, like the Accordion Festival, Music Fest is up right now. Probably less than half, half a dozen at the most, I would say, throughout the year. It's not a lot, but they're typically bigger events in the park.
And then one more question about that. I assume just like the flag raising ceremonies, now we have some control over when we put the banner up. We can decide when to put it up. If we're charging a fee for that, does that raise any issues with First Amendment free speech? People wanting to pay to put whatever banner up over the street.
Yeah, we have a banner policy where people can't just approach us to put a banner up. It has to be connected with some event that they're already doing. Or the city could put its own banner up for whatever reason, but like any sort of third party would have to have an.
So let's say a third party was having an event in La Plaza Park with, would any event that was happening in La Plaza Park then be entitled to put the banner up if they paid the fee?
It's a good question. It's been a while since I've looked at the banner policy because we don't normally get those requests. And I know we've had the free speech conversation before with the attorneys about the policy, but we certainly can revisit it to make sure there's no issues there with the banners, yeah. The requests are relatively infrequent, and they're typically the Chamber of Commerce, or like we voluntarily put one up for SSU. It's really our banner, but we do it to like welcome the students back, that kind of thing. And then otherwise they're just our events. So we don't generally let people put the banner up. It's pretty minimal.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that adding a formalized fee doesn't change that calculus somehow.
No, I don't think that changes anything. It would be more the decision of banner up or not, you know, in terms of your free speech question. Right, you're asking if, like, you discriminate against one person's free speech and allowing another by choosing which banners go up or not? Yeah, and that's,
Yeah, and I can just comment on that briefly. Yeah, so we'll take a look at the policy, we'll revisit it and have a discussion between the city attorney's office and the city manager. As Damien mentioned, adding a fee wouldn't change First Amendment protections. Generally, the greatest protections of when we say it's government speech. So we can take a look at the policy and ensure that First Amendment rights are being considered, but also, in this case, that the city has authority to determine which banners are able to be raised.
Any other questions? Okay, Councilmember?
I'll have more comments about the block party piece, but I'm confused about most of the fees seem to be a consistent CPI, 3.8% or whatever. The development fees go up by bizarrely small amounts, $1 to 1 cent in almost all cases. I'm confused. Are they not subject to the same CPI, or were they updated last month, or?
yeah, well, some are subject to CPI, some are subject to like a construction cost index. So they're inflationary indices, but they're different. And the construction cost, which development impact fees typically are, because it's intended to fund infrastructure, so it's tied typically to construction cost indexes. That index was close to flat, I believe.
0.2%.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's why the small change.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions? I had a small question about the banners, tagging on to the banners. You know, for the holidays, we have on the light posts, on lamp posts along, we have small holiday kind of messages. Is that also under banner policy? Like if, I know like in Hillsburg and other cities, they have graduates, you know, or other kind of events up there. Is that something that's covered also or included under banner policy, or is that something more internal city decisions?
The banners that are on the street light poles, they're not currently available for any other third party. It's only city-sponsored stuff that would go on those right now. So they're not, to answer your question, it's not part of the policy right now. I mean, that is something that if the council wishes, we could, you know.
I wonder if that would provide some type of revenue or something, if people wanted to have, you know, within the policy or something. I don't know what the other council members think about that.
It probably wouldn't create revenue. It would be more of is it something that we'd want to do or not, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I was just wondering about that part. Okay. So since this is no other questions? Okay, we're going to open up the public hearing then. And we'll start with, if you want to go ahead in the room, anyone in the room that wants to come make a comment?
I was listening to that policy. I just want to know, because like I live in one of the mobile home parks here, so would that apply to the mobile home park? Would that be closed off, or would it not be?
You mean if the mobile home park wanted to?
Do a block party or whatever they were saying.
Oh, that's related to, was that this one? That was this one too, right? Okay, thank you. Well, yeah, we'll take that into consideration. Thank you. Okay, since no one in the room, will go to online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. Seeing no hands, that will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll bring it back to the city council. But first of all, there was a question about whether events also qualified like in mobile home parks.
Well, so a mobile home park is a private property, so they'd have to get the permission of the property owner to do that. So it wouldn't apply to that specifically. I think they would have to work with the property owner to get that.
Okay, so any permissions would have to be with the property owner of the park?
Yeah, the property owner would have to authorize it, and I'm sure they would have to talk to emergency services too to make sure there's still access for fire and law, that kind of thing.
Okay, Councilmember, Vice Mayor?
So even though all of our mobile home parks have streets, those are not considered public streets, they're considered private streets?
Right,
Is
yeah,
that-
they're
did
not
I-
public streets.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments from council? Yes, Councilmember?
I'd like to revisit the block party issue that Councilmember Sparks raised. Sort of just opening free permits up to dead-end streets is very, very limited. And the policies of other cities that I've referenced in pushing this in the past are far more expansive than that. And I'm wondering if, did we get pushback from emergency services when we raised possibilities, or are we just being super cautious?
I mean, to be totally frank, we collectively remember the conversation, but cannot find it for the life of us to actually find exactly what was asked for. So part of the reason why we added it to this agenda to specifically prompt the question was to make sure we understood it correctly, and if we didn't, that we could have that conversation and make sure we get it correct.
Okay.
And I will say that the internal thinking was that a dead-end street is relatively simple, because you can put barricades up, and that's in minimal coordination with services. If you're blocking a street or creating traffic plans or doing detours, that's when it gets much more complicated, especially if you're like detouring traffic around an area.
Yeah, I guess, so the Seattle, for instance, has a big, free block party permit that's a simple process for any neighborhood street, non-arterial, fewer than 100, it doesn't include an intersection. There's some very easy to list criteria. They don't include, but it would be easy to add a criterion that doesn't block the only access to any streets other than the one actually blocked off. They're more a grid structure than we are, so that doesn't tend to happen there, whereas it would here. And I don't know if there's if we have an easy map for people to look up and see, is my street an arterial or not? That's so we need that sort of thing. But I would like to see the free permit apply much more broadly than to just dead-end streets myself.
Comments, Vice Mayor?
So along those lines, does it require, approval's not the right word, but agreement with everyone on the street? Because I would hate to get into a situation where one neighbor gets ticked off that you put a barricade there, and my house is in the middle of the street, and now you're telling me I can't get to my house. So is there a way for us to deal with the neighbors beforehand rather than after the fact, with one of them calling the police because they can't get in or out?
Good point.
Well, the block parties that we typically deal with, they generally are for whatever reason, they generally tend to be on cul-de-sacs, and they're all together. There might be one person in the group that's not happy about it, but they're all kind of doing it. So I think as long as there's some sort of noticing, I think that would probably solve most of that. You might have someone occasionally that's not happy about it, but that would probably address most of it with noticing.
Rather have a process about that beforehand than deal with that after the fact by a police officer having to go out because someone got upset for whatever reason. I'd rather have us say, well, here's the process, you get blah, blah, whatever it is. And then they have their opportunity to speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, I mean, I think
type situation.
I think the practical consideration probably is most commonly having secondary access that people can get to without having to go through a block party to get to wherever they're going. you know, if they're actually in the block party area, I'm sure they're well aware of the party happening. But if they're trying to get to the other side of the block party because they have to pass through it, if they can get around a different way, then that's, I think, the primary consideration. Otherwise, people get grumpy, yeah.
We just have seen some neighbors behaving badly in our community, unfortunately.
So I just want to check, so they get a no-cost permit for this? And they do noticing ahead of time, only because I see the noticing issue? Because some events that I hold in other communities, sometimes the noticing becomes an issue because not everyone's in agreement. So is there like a permit that's issued, even though if it's no fee?
Yeah, so we would issue a permit. That's the idea, is that there'd still be a permit like a larger event, like let's say the downtown shop and stroll. We issue a permit for that. So we'd still have a permit, so there would be, you know, like conditions and things like that.
So
But-
condition could be like a noticing requirement of the neighbors in that vicinity? Okay.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
But we just wouldn't charge them for it. That's the idea.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments, Quinn?
Well, yeah, I'd love to see us develop a one-pager that sort of captures some of these ideas, you know. So no bouncy houses in the street, no furniture in the street that's going to make it impossible for emergency access if needed. You know, you need to be able to pull back the barriers and get out of the street, so emergency access if needed. Seattle's program also says people who live there have to be able to go through to go to their driveway. So you can't create a block party that actually is impossible to get through. So I guess I'd be okay with putting this permit in here as it is now, as long as there's an agreement to revisit with a slightly fuller, consider a slightly, a fuller implementation at a, I don't know.
Like a
later
one-page direction?
Yeah,
review?
kind of, it's not in our list of projects, so but I also don't think we're talking a lot of time to put together a one-pager that would enable us to expand the free permit program to any 1 block or less, or maybe we put a foot, you know, number of feet, 500 feet or less, that doesn't block off the only access to any parcels that aren't within the area. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
How do we handle that now? Because they still would have to ask for a permit now, right? What criteria do we use, and can we incorporate some of that? Because we're really just saying that we don't want to charge people for it, but I'm guessing there's criteria that we look at that addresses some of these concerns now.
Yeah, so rather than it be like a hypothetical conversation, it's easy enough. I mean, we can get actual permit examples.
Okay.
So you can see what kind of conditioning goes into them, as well as, you said, the Seattle is an example potentially.
Yeah, Seattle's just one example.
Yeah.
There are some
yeah.
examples out there where they don't even require the applicants to go rent barricades. They just say, use your garbage bins and put these printed signs on them that say block party, you know. So there are mechanisms out there for, and I think the advantage of having a one-pager for a block party is to limit the free permits to the really easy ones, right, where it really does fit some very constrained thing that's not going to cause a lot of problems, not going to require, you know, emergency services review and things like that.
Okay, yeah. So we do have coming up an update to the park and special event policy. We have some tweaks we need to make to that. And we also are going to be coming back to this fee schedule soon enough because we have the affordable housing fees that we discussed that we'll be bringing back as well. So we could fold it into that discussion.
Okay, thank you. And Vice Mayor, you have a question? Do you have a comment? That was it. That was it? Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Yeah, I just personally, I'm a little, in addition to the free speech issue, which I'm just curious to hear more about, but I'm kind of leery of increasing that fee for or inventing the fee for the banner installation, because it feels like there's a pretty small number of organizations that are going to get hit by that fee, and it be a substantial cost increase for them. So I'd just like to maybe ask again, could you explain a little bit about what goes into putting up that banner? And I assume it's just a bunch of staff time to go out there with the trucks and get it up.
Yeah, it's public works staff time. So you have to get the bucket truck and get up there to hang one side and then, you know, the other side. So it's, probably 3 people, 3 hours, something like that, to do it. So, I mean, it's a real thing. It's not simple to just put up a flag or something, but it's not
Yeah.
that, it's not, I mean, we're always changing the banner out. How many of them are for non-city purposes? I don't think it's more than 6 in the year.
And I'm just thinking, like, for those 6 organizations that are involved with whatever those events are, have we talked to them about this or communicated to them that that we're thinking about doing this fee? Because it could be a substantial increase to the cost of putting on the event.
I don't know. This fee was added through the Recreation Department, so I'll have to talk to them to see what kind of conversations they've had. But
Go ahead.
I'd just like to respond a little. It's not necessarily a hit to their budget. It's a notice, hey, this is a $1,000 subsidy that the city has been providing. And either by adding it, we're saying we're not willing to silently foot this bill anymore. If you want a fee waiver, you're going to have to ask like every other fee waiver, or you find some other way to deal with your publicity. So it's putting the choice, I think, onto those organizations rather than silently footing the bill ourselves. And they could request and we could waive the fee rather than just blanket waive that. By leaving the fee off, we'd just sort of be saying we blanket waive the fee. So
That totally makes sense, and I appreciate that perspective. I think since we'd like to have good relationships with the people who are putting on great events for our community, maybe a conversation with them would be a better way to introduce this idea than adding the fee and telling them after the fact, hey, there's this new fee you got to pay. So I don't feel comfortable moving forward with it tonight until we've maybe had a chance to reach out to the people who would be affected by it.
I'm fine with that approach.
Anyone, any other thoughts? Vice Mayor?
Well, they're going to, of course, say, no, they don't want a fee because the people that will ask for it have been getting it for free. I guess what worries me is the fact that we have to stop traffic and have our employees out there stopping traffic. And, I mean, it really is, it's not a simple thing, so it should be something that we kind of consider all of the impacts of doing it. I mean, it's different than, putting stakes in the park and, having a sign that, that's a really busy intersection, so.
Can I say I agree with Vice Mayor from events that I do on a yearly basis, that costs keep going up and they're added, and it is expensive. It should be an expectation of groups, even nonprofits that put on events, that there is some costs associated with it. So I agree that it should be, if it is added, that should be something that we can communicate to them, but there is a cost associated with events. Any other comments? Thoughts, comments?
Well, I also think that, with us moving to an electronic board, there may be more opportunity for events to be announced there. And it's possible that, the banner will lose its sparkle, if you will, considering we're going to have more availability of opportunity to have. So we're so limited now when we put stuff out there, but with the electronic board, we ought to be able to put more noticing of events than we do today.
I will hear no ill spoken of our beautiful banner. No, but yeah, I totally agree that it is a real cost, but I still feel like a conversation's in order before we move forward with it.
One way to do it would be to delay the implementation of the banner installation fee for 6 months or something like that, so that anybody who's already planned an event this year and is expecting that, all right, we'll carry through with that expectation, but here's your notice, this is it. I don't know if that would kind of, because I agree, consulting with them is not going to really get us anywhere, except, no, we don't want the fee, we like the banner. But I don't want to negotiate the fee, it's kind of got to reflect our costs to do it, so, but I like delayed implementation, or maybe 6-month warning.
It's a good idea, great idea.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we could delay it.
delay it,
It's no
okay.
problem,
Okay, any other comments? So then what I heard was a conversation about free speech information for the banner. The delay of the banner costs by 6 months, and a one-pager for block parties at cul-de-sacs was what I heard.
No, for block parties.
For block parties.
Not at cul-de-sacs.
Not in cul-de-sacs, okay.
So I was thinking, like, leave the fee schedule as is with that footnote for now, but then revisit the block party to broaden it
To broaden it, okay.
at the next discussion.
Okay. Okay, so since this, are we ready to do a resolution adoption of this one? Because this one is for adoption of a resolution with some of the things we discussed. It's on page 122.
All right, I move we adopt a resolution updating the master fee schedule and charges for city services and repealing previously adopted or conflicting fees and charges for such services, including the items noted by the mayor.
Second.
Okay, so we'll take a roll call vote, if we can have a roll call.
Councilmember Savage,
Aye.
Councilmember Sparks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ford,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Yes.
Mayor Lemus.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So next we'll go on to the regular agenda, and we have 9A, which is a mid-cycle budget update and proposed amendments to the fiscal years 2025-26 and 26-27 adopted biennial budget. And I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, that's me. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members in the public. Tonight, I'll be presenting the fiscal year, like you said, mid-cycle budget update for the proposed amendments to the biennial budget for fiscal years 25-26 and 26-27. This review represents this midpoint of the city's first biannual budget and provides an opportunity to evaluate the actual performance, our updated assumptions, and ensure that the budget remains aligned with our current operational needs, project schedules, and our financial conditions. Overall, the city's financial position remains stable, and the recommended amendments improve budget accuracy while supporting long-term fiscal sustainability. And I'm going to start by saying that I apologize right off the bat, because apparently I don't know how to create a budget-related document that's under 300 pages. So within the packet, we've provided the detailed budget adjustment reports, which roll up into the totals, which are outlined on packet pages 178 to 191. And really, that's the focus of the presentation to council, and really the ideal of what we're looking at as far as the numbers. So, next slide, please. So when the city adopted its first biennial budget, staff anticipated returning midway through the budget cycle to review our actual results and make any of these necessary adjustments. This review evaluates revenues, expenditures, staffing levels, capital projects, reserve impacts, and the broader economic conditions that we're seeing around our community. The goal is not to fundamentally change the city's priorities, but rather to refine the budget based on actual experience and updated information, so that it can remain to be a good financial tool for us to continue to plan going forward. Next slide. So overall, the key takeaways at a high level is that fiscal year 25-26 is trending favorably. The general fund revenues are projected to exceed budget expectations, while expenditures are projected below the adopted appropriations. Our enterprise funds remain stable. Capital project schedules have been updated to reflect our current conditions, and the reserve levels continue to support the enterprise needs. For fiscal year 26-27, staff is recommending some specific refinements to our revenue assumptions, some staffing costing projection adjustments. We've also amended our capital project timing to improve accuracy and better align with what our A and B projects should be based on our funding reserve levels. Next slide. So the general fund continues to perform well. On the revenue side, property tax revenues are slightly exceeding projections for 25-26. Franchise fee revenues have increased, primarily related to the garbage franchise agreement, and development activity has generated additional permit revenues, and that's really bolstered the general fund revenues. However, on the expenditure side, costs are projected below budget, and this is due to really staffing vacancies, deferred vehicle replacement contributions, primarily out of the Public Works Department, and delayed capital project transfers as projects were postponed. So these trends improve the general fund's projected reserve levels for the fiscal year compared to the adopted budget. Next slide. So comparing that to 26-27, staff have updated revenue assumptions, again, using the most up-to-date information that we can get. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, but we know certain things are trending a different way. So part of that is that our cannabis tax revenues have been reduced due to the closure of one of our distribution facilities. Cable, television, and gas franchise revenues, we're continuing to see trend down as people convert to more electric in their household and cut cable with their, literally cutting the cable to their TV. And so again, that's bringing down those revenues into the city. Offsetting these decreases are modest increases related to the Ronda Floody Ranch program, as well as our investment earnings. We kept them pretty conservative, and now we're still seeing that they're fairly stable. Our revenue, our cash balances within a general fund are stable, and our returns have kind of flattened. They're not decreasing as much anymore. Offsetting these decreases, on the expenditure side, personnel budgets have been refined based on vacancy patterns, so we'll talk about that in just a little bit. We have, again, several capital transfers which are being delayed, and that were delayed that are now being put in, as well as other projects that we had in are now being pushed out a little bit farther. The vehicle replacement contributions are being restored after being deferred in 25-26. So again, that was another item that was on our consent calendar if you want a list of the vehicles that we've approved or put in for the budget for 26-27. Next slide. So several significant capital project required scheduled adjustments are included here. So the streets projects continue to move forward, but we have really kind of done what we did in the parks and rephased some of that work due to higher than anticipated construction costs. We just don't have the anticipated funding to meet all the needs of the cost for full construction at this point in time. Additionally, we have removed the trash implementation project, so that was a good boost to the bottom where we didn't have to spend money on that because staff confirmed that we already meet the requirements of the infrastructure standards, and so it's more about meeting with social things like making sure people understand what goes in the garbage can, where the garbage cans are, and those types of activities. Several large projects remain important priorities but have been deferred, and these again are our B projects as opposed to our A projects. These include the continued design and focused work on the Ronda Floody Barn project, the William George traffic signal, portions of the street reconstruction program, and and two more things. The construction for Highway 116 intersection improvements. So we have piece of that going forward, but not 100% of that, as well as the Putnam Park Phase 2. These decisions help preserve our financial stability while allowing the city to continue to pursue grant opportunities or other funding sources. So right now, we have them programmed. We have things that are designed and being worked on. However, we're waiting to see if we can get other funding sources or how we're going to make sure we can fund them before we approve them as a project going forward. Next slide. So this slide highlights several notable contract service expenditures included within the amended budget for 26-27. The one-time expenditures include such projects as a new project as a parking study. We also have improvements around embankment vegetation management along Old Redwood Highway across from the Veterans Building. We have upgrades to City Hall's access security, so our key system and getting quotes and information on how to update that. We also have our 3-year community polling that's included, as well as replacement of our aging information technology system. So there's certain parts of our servers networks that have aged out that are in need of replacement. We also have ongoing contract services that support our critical operations, which include our IT services, which supports our software system, so it's outside of the hardware replacements, the operations at the Ronda Floody Ranch, and again, our legal services. So while these costs are significant, Each represents either a strategic investment and a one-time cost or necessary operational services that the city needs to continue to preserve. Next slide. So some of those things that we're changing in the budget this year that aren't just numbers. So staff has recommended improvements in certain activities so that we can better track and manage reports. So we've decided that it would be a best practice to separate the department, separate the funding and pieces from the Rhonda Floody Ranch and create its own department within the general fund. This is going to allow us to better track revenues and expenses directly related to those activities instead of commingling them with the recreation like they currently are, so, and parks as well. So we just want to make sure we can separate those and see them as a separate activity. And separately, we've decided on the other side to close the K-9 fund. I know this has been an ongoing discussion when it really is just funded by transfers from the general fund. Why are we keeping it separate? We were getting donations at certain points in time, but it's really not enough and it's not consistent in order to meet the needs. And so we've decided really it should be with the police department. So it will be coded to the police department, but we'll have a separate project coding so we can still, again, keep it identified and know, again, the costs of keeping that K-9 activity within the police department. Next slide. Probably our biggest change, and something council's been asking about, is the 26-27. We did a review of our staffing to look at vacancy patterns throughout the city. So historically, the city's budgeted personnel costs based on full authorized positions being filled throughout the entire fiscal year. So I like that approach in some ways because it does ensure adequate appropriations are available. It's very, very conservative, and that's why we needed to make sure we were adjusting for that appropriately. So these things, all these positions are subject, or certain positions can be subject to vacancies due to turnover, retirements. Our part-time staff are students, and so their schedules change and they're not available, the full half-time that we anticipate to use them. And there's just other operational factors where we're just not meeting the full staffing needs. So to develop a more accurate budget estimate, we looked at all the historical positions that have had kind of recurring vacancies and or partial year utilization. And those adjustments included within the city manager's department, there's an intern position which remains authorized but really hasn't been able to be filled due to workspace limitations. We've reduced our estimates for administrative services and engineering intern positions based on, again, that historical turnover, students coming and going, as well as their schedules. They're not really admittable to, actually a half-time position. We also did a partial adjustment for the planning technician position as we're anticipating some workload shifts within the department. We also have the adjustment for rec leaders based on hours, because again, they're high school students for the most part, and their schedules change, and we have turnover again in those positions, and so we wanted to have that as a little bit more conservative estimate. The biggest piece is really the police department, where we have significantly more staffing, and so we feel like the equivalent of a vacancy factor is approximately 1 dispatcher position, 1 officer position, and 1 reserve officer position. So accounting for all of these vacancies, it's approximately $547,000 adjustment to the general fund. We looked at this historically, and I'm sure you're well aware that has been very close to what our variance has been in our personnel benefits and costs, salaries and benefits costs. And so we feel like this is aligned with it, as a good estimate of what a vacancy factor could be based on. Again, it's good to emphasize these are not adjustments to our actual staffing. We're not proposing changing any of our actual FTE that we are wanting into each of these positions. It's just an expectation or an idea of what it might be a reduction in our costs for the city for the year. We're going to continue to evaluate this. This is the first year that we're doing this to make sure that it is in alignment. And again, this will be a part of our quarterly updates. Hey, where are we looking at compared to, 3 months into the year, 6 months into the year, to make sure we're still in alignment if there's adjustments needed. Next slide. So onto the enterprise funds. This is on packet page 182. Sorry, I didn't give the packet pages earlier. But the water fund remains financially stable. During fiscal year 25-26, the connection fee revenues and investment earnings exceeded expectations. We don't typically budget connection fees due to unreliability of actual construction and development for the year. Additionally, for expenses, we had personnel costs and vehicle replacement contributions, which came in lower than budgeted, as well as we adjusted the West Sierra Tank project, which was postponed based on the inspection. So we had budgeted actual construction and repair work needing to be done on that tank, but we had, again, a diver go down and say, no, it looks good, you're good for a couple years. So that replenished back some of those capital costs that we were expecting to use. For fiscal year 26-27, staff is proposing some increases again on the investment earnings as the cash balance available, again, as this fund's continuing to grow back to its balances that we want, it's cash available for investments increases, and so thus the investment earnings does increase. So for expenses, we've now also included funding for our water modeling related to future development projects and the restoration of the vehicle replacement contributions, which were rolled over from 25-26, and continued key capital projects. Overall, the proposed amendments maintain system reliability while supporting our long-term infrastructure needs. Next slide. So for the sewer enterprise funds, there are several important changes that occurred. And this is the report shown on packet page 183. So just like the water fund for fiscal year 25-26, we collected additional connection fees, which were not budgeted. So it's good we have some additional revenue there. Additionally, we worked with the Santa Rosa wastewater treatment to get the city back $250,000 of excess reserves that were being held by the agency. And we're planning on using these funds to use for our lift station generator projects, so we can get that moving forward a lot faster than we had anticipated. Treatment cost assumptions had also been revised based on updated information, resulting in lower projected costs than were originally budgeted. And that's partially offset by increases in the RRWA fees. So for fiscal year 26-27, we're following through with the decreased sewer estimates. So again, because my 25-26 estimates were higher, my 26-27 were also higher, so I needed to bring those back down. There's also the increased vehicle replacement, same with the other two funds due to replacement of vehicles. And all the other capital projects have been removed until additional funding sources can be identified. And we have more confidence around the sustainability of the fund balance. Because while reserve levels remain low, it's below our target policy. And so we want to continue to make sure that this fund is improving before we grant any more our new capital projects for the fund. I do want to point out, though, that this is kind of the trend line for our rate study, where hopefully this is kind of on the bottoming out of the fund balance and reserves as we then hopefully turn back around as our rates come back up. Our rates are continuing to increase. Next slide. So most special revenue fund adjustments are relatively minor and reflect updated estimates based on actual activity, things we're seeing going on. As mentioned earlier, we're proposing a closure of the K-9 fund and incorporating that activity back to the police department operations. We have the development impact fee revenues, which have increased due to actual receipts received during the year. We have additional funding that's being used from the tree replacement projects throughout the city's park and landscapes area. So we're making sure we're using those funds for all our projects as well. And finally, the veterans building revenue, rental revenues have been adjusted downward. I think we had initially put in revenues that were higher than really should have been. And so we're just kind of bringing them back down to a more realistic number for the fund. Next slide. So staff have reviewed all the active capital and grant-funded projects. The capital projects funds are on packet pages 190 to 191. And this is probably another big part where we spend a lot of time because these projects are really critical to the city, and we want to make sure we're identifying which ones are on council's A list that we are prioritizing and what is feasible. So several projects require budget carry forwards because work will continue into the next fiscal year. So that is something that's incorporated into the budget. A new piece that we also have incorporated into the budget was our grant funding for a CHP cannabis grant. It was just missed as we adopted our biannual budget and wasn't significant enough to bring in, but that was something that's now been incorporated into the budget, and they're actually applying for next year's grant as well. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll continue to receive that grant. Again, the trash implementation project has been removed, and we also moved more projects to the B list as discussed previously. We're going to continue to update our capital schedules to reflect grant reimbursements, timing, project readiness, and again, our funding reliability or availability as we continue to look for it as we're going through. So if there's something that we have available, we're putting it on a schedule to get it done for our community. Next slide. So after incorporating the proposed amendments, the reserve levels overall remain generally healthy. The general fund continues to meet council reserve level policies and provides flexibility to respond to economic uncertainty. The water fund remains stable and continues to support planned infrastructure investments currently. Although the sewer fund remains below target reserve levels, the trend is improving and is consistent with the projections again from the city's rate study. We're looking at it and that the city's financial outlook remains positive, and the proposed amendments support our long-term fiscal sustainability going forward. So next slide. So it really concludes the presentation. The proposed amendments, we really feel like they improve the budget accuracy, update our assumptions, and continue to provide services while maintaining financial stability. We've really gone through a very detailed within each department to make sure we're bringing the best possible numbers. And we're just hoping that you'll receive the mid-file budget update and adopt the proposed amendments. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Let's start with questions from City Council. Okay, none? Okay.
I had one question on the Water Enterprise Fund, and you mentioned that the reserves weren't being used yet on the West Sierra tank. And so are those reserves then carried forward, or do they go back to be spent on other items?
Correct. So they go into, they are retained in the fund, and then they would be programmed for other projects.
Okay, because I seem to remember some conversation when we were looking at water increases, and we continually had the need for well 2, unless it's a different well that I'm thinking of, the need to be worked on and paid for, and we build that into the rate increase, but it doesn't get spent, and then, down the road, we still need to increase again because we still need to fix well 2. And I thought we were going to have conversations where that money, once it got collected, was set aside only to be used for well 2. Does that not?
So I think that's a Cypress tank.
Cypress
That's
tank.
the ongoing
Okay,
one, yes.
okay, so it's
And
a
so,
Cypress tank.
and so on the bottom of packet page 182 for the water fund, we do have the capital projects for 26-27 include the start of the Cypress tank design work and the well 2 treatment.
Okay,
As you
okay.
pointed out.
Answer that question. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other questions? Just a quick question on the Veterans Building revenue. The staffing, was that a pilot project? Was that, we just took it over from the county? Is it a pilot project? And is it still feasible for us to continue with that if the revenues have decreased?
Yeah, it is a positive for the city. It brings
Okay.
in approximately, I think for budget year 26-27, it's $12,000 to the positive for that fund that brings back into our general fund.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to public comment. And I don't see, if there's anyone in the room first that wants to make public comment? Okay, now we'll go to online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori. You have the floor.
Hi. Angela, and I understand why she had to do this, to balance this budget, sent George Barrick a bill for $267,000 that is due today. And she did it, 140,000 of that was administrative costs of this, to have the scandal of the Wiener, and even Kevin's time for this, almost 3 years of hearings that have landed you in federal court. I warned you guys a year ago how bad this is, and you've made it even worse. And if you vote on, without carving out the code enforcement one, you're doing what you did in February again, which ended up with John Bacher in Public Regulated Law having an FPPC complaint because of giving advice on their legal costs. And this is another one. You'd be doing the same, solidifying the same kind of behavior that has got into an FPPC complaint. I can understand Angela needed to take it from a cost on the sheet to an accounts receivable, so it wouldn't be, but this kind of stuff is going to catch up with you, and you need to be totally transparent, because you're going to have to be. This federal lawsuit is big. It's been suppressed by the Press Democrat for 2 weeks now, but it is big. And the things like the code enforcement contract, you guys didn't discuss the budget, the increases for the scandal, and you're not saying why you have the lower amount will be because you're getting rid of Robert Smith and going to they have a request for proposals out. This all is going to come back and bite you, and you need to carve out code enforcement and come back with an accurate number before you do finalize the budget. Thank you.
There are no further hands on Zoom. That will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So I'll bring it back to City Council. And any other, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for putting a number to that vacancies. That was really helpful. It's really helpful for me to just mentally have that number going forward. So I appreciate that very much.
Any other comments? No? Okay. Okay, so if there's no comments, and can we get do we need a motion on this one?
I'm happy to move that we adopt a resolution approving amendments to the fiscal years 25-26 and 26-27 biennial budget.
Second?
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. For the next item, we have the third amended and restated city manager employment agreement, and I believe we have a presentation by City Attorney Allie Wolf.
Good evening, Mayor Lemus, Vice Mayor Harvey, and council members. Allie Wolf, Assistant City Attorney. Before the council this evening is a proposed resolution to approve the Third Amendment and restated employment agreement for the city manager. The city manager's employment agreement was most recently amended in August of 2022, and this prior amendment was intended to align certain benefits with other employee groups at the city, non-represented employee groups at the city. And although it was intended that the city manager employment agreement end on the same date as a non-represented employee group statement of benefits, it was recently discovered that the city manager employment agreement ends a year before, upcoming in this July. The proposed amendment currently before council includes a 1-year extension to bring the city manager employment agreement in line with the term of the non-represented employee group statement of benefits. And so before the council takes final action this evening, or considers and takes final action on this item 9B, in compliance with Government Code Section 54953, we are required to make an oral statement of the final action that's being requested this evening. for the employment agreement for the city manager, Damien Obid. And the proposed amendment modifies the city manager's compensation and contract terms as followed, as I will outline. The contract extension that the term of the existing employment agreement will be extended by 1 additional year, changing the contract expiration date to July 8th of 2027. There is a COLA, cost of living adjustment. The city manager will receive a 2.5% cost of living adjustment to the base salary, which would adjust the city manager's base salary from $104.92 per hour to a new base salary of $107.54 per hour. There are some other proposed revisions to the employment agreement, and they include a variety of edits just to clean up old language that's no longer applicable for as well as consistency with other labor MOUs at the city. These don't affect the city manager's compensation or fringe benefit terms. All other prior compensation, fringe benefits, allowances, and terms established in the existing employment agreement would remain unchanged and in full effect. And so this concludes the verbal summary required under the government code. The city council may now proceed on this item and consider approval of a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign the third amended and restated employment agreement with the city manager. And I am available if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start city council. Any questions to Attorney Ellie Wolf? Okay, no? Okay. Okay, so if there's no questions, we'll go to public comment. And anyone in the room that would like to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Lori, you have the floor.
Hi. I did something like 21-page email to you all with a Google about how renewing Damien's contract at this time could potentially cause him to get a golden parachute and more misuse of funds. He's principal named in the federal lawsuit. He's the only personal named, and so I'd like you guys to all just do an interim until the constitutional issues are handled by the courts. Either that or go to an interim city manager. It's not, this is going to be making him a reward for bad management and causing this. It's a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, if you didn't know by now. He guided it for 3 years to come from a $300,000 maybe lawsuit to it's $6 million in just punitive damages. This is a big deal, and you all act like there's nothing. And if you do this with renewing Damien's contract, you will be misusing more monies instead of doing corrective actions, which is what the courts and everybody, the grand jury's probably going to take it up. You guys got to stop ignoring the realities here. Thank you.
There are no further hands. That will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So I'll bring it back to city council, see if there's any comments. Go ahead.
I think the one-year extension with the same COLA as the rest of our staff are receiving is more than fair to the city, and to align with the rest of the non-rep group. And I think we're lucky to have Mr. Obid as our city manager, so I'm happy he's happy to stay for another year.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion on a resolution?
I move that we approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Cotati approving a third amended and restating city manager employment contract and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to ask you if you want to join us for the land acknowledgement and Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. The City of Cotati recognizes that we're on the ancestral lands of the coastal Miwok, who are the original caretakers of this area. We respectfully acknowledge the indigenous peoples who have been stewarding and maintaining a relationship on this land as knowledge keepers for millennia. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with indigenous communities, but serves as a gesture of respect to the land that we are on. And now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And we're moving on to the city manager's report and council member reports.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council. So coming up on June 15th is Monday, June 15th at 5 p.m. is the next Community Beat Neighborhood Watch meeting at the PD Police Community Room. So if anyone's interested in that, that's we're getting the word out about that now. And then on construction, if you've been down East Cotati, you'll see that paving work is in full swing. They're doing spot repairs, basically dig out some patches right now. And they also expect to do some of the striping removal, so taking the paint off the asphalt this week. And then crack sealing is next week, and slurry seals plan to be the following week. And the work is on East Cotati Avenue from Bay Tree, past the railroad tracks all the way to the city limits by Sunflower Park. And there will be lane closures with two-way traffic being funneled into 2 lanes. There's also some other spot repairs happening, but that's the area in East Cotati is the main area that's being worked on. Also, the Class 1 pathway is that work is well underway. So this is the Laguna pathway between Materi Bridge and Gravenstein. So that's it's been underway for a couple weeks now, and they're installing cross drains and compaction, I believe, is complete now. Edging is going in this week, and the pathway surfacing should be installed on Friday and into next week. So by the middle of the month, it should be ready to go. So that's pretty exciting, and see how that hopefully works just as well as the pathway on the other side of East Cotati Avenue. And then the traffic signals at Old Redwood Highway at East Cotati Avenue. So this is at Valparaiso and Myrtle. There's a traffic signal there at the intersection. And you may recall that the paint is, the poles itself are fairly rusted. Some of the paint's peeling and falling off. And the council authorized a couple months ago to have someone, a contractor, repaint it all. And that is supposed to start very soon. Next week, okay. Yeah, it was going to be this week, but then as of like a couple hours ago, it's next week. So anyway, it's imminent is the point. There will be some minor traffic control around the intersection when that work's going on. And then you'll also notice there's construction happening in La Plaza Park this week, and that's just PG&E potholing. So there's an older gas main that runs through the park, and they have maps that show where it is, and they think they know where it is, but they pothole to visually verify where it is before they come back later this fall. There is a construction plan, and we're working with them on what that construction looks like, the exact timing of the construction still, so that hasn't been totally nailed down, but it's going to be this fall at some point, where they're going to replace the gas main that runs under the park there. And the potholing they're going to pause it tomorrow, and it continues on Thursday. So and then we won't see any activity for a bit until they come back for the actual project. And then in recreation, we have our summer camp started this week, and also farm camps have started up. And we are gearing up for, so the other big event that's happening is we're gearing up for Kids Day, which will be in July, early July. And later this month, there's also the Music Fest that the Chamber of Commerce is putting on. So there's a lot of activities that are right around the corner. And I'll just stop there, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any questions, City Manager? Okay, so we'll move on to City Council reports.
I just want to say kudos to everybody involved with the Sunflower Park. That was a great product that came out of that, and the ribbon cutting, the Recreation Department did a great job. It was a really good day, and I thought that was just, the city shined in a moment like that. That was great. Also, just to call out, this Thursday, June 11th at 11 a.m., we'll be doing the Pride flag raising here at City Hall. And on Wednesday, June 17th, is the Pride Farmers Market in La Plaza Park. And I'll be tabling with the library folks, and there'll be some other organizations that support the LGBTQ plus community that will be tabling also if you're able to stop by, and some entertainment. So a big night.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Okay, let's see, where have I been? So on June 3rd, I attended the LAFCO meeting, and there was a quite vocal discussion around the disadvantaged communities. There was quite a lot of public input on that, and we're looking to finalize the policy for that, but I thought it was a really great discussion, and I think that we will end up with a much better policy than what was originally put forth. So there was a lot of input and a lot of community input, and maps were showing different ways. It makes it really hard because the data, we don't have data that stays static. So we get income data, but it bounces around. Some of that they think is because different people answer on different years, so it's sort of hard to, kind of say this particular area is always this way because the data is not great. But we're able to look at some different sources, and with the combination of sources, hopefully we will get a much better policy on that. Sad to say that we will be losing our chair because of the Rancho Adobe fire consolidation. So his position will be eliminated, and we have two other members that will also be leaving. So we'll be doing interviewing for those. So that ought to make it quite interesting getting 3 new people on there. And we looked at the budget, and we also looked at getting back into Cal LAFCO. Apparently, all of the issues that they were having with that group have apparently been resolved. So we're going to go ahead and pay and get back in there, because that's really where we get our kind of legislative information is via Cal LAFCO. So that should help. On 6/4, I attended the Revenue Taxation Policy Committee, and they had no items for us to vote on, but we had a good presentation by Michael Coleman on financial health of cities. I'm sure some of you have heard of that before, and he gave some highlights there. We got budget updates from the state, and we know that there's a lot of cutting happening there, and I guess pretty soon we're going to get the final on that, but it's not looking great. On 6/5, I attended the Public Safety Policy Committee meeting, and we had no items to vote on there either, but we had a really great presentation on fire insurance and the fire zones and the different areas and stuff, and that was really good. About, they talk about zone 0, which is like 5 feet from your house, and the things that are being looked at there. And they've kind of scaled that back. Originally, I know people were kind of freaked out about that because it was going to be everybody, and now they're kind of phasing it, if you will. It'll be for new construction first, and then it will move to existing construction, but it was pretty good. there was a presentation by one of the city managers having to do with fireworks, because we're getting close to that. And the city has, it's in their second year of pilot, and they're actually using a drone company because what was happening with them is they'd send their officers out, or the fire department would go out, and nothing happened in here, nothing to see here. Well, with the drones, they were actually able to get geocoding of the locations and pictures. So they were able to find people. And one of the places, I guess, which I didn't know this, so the fireworks that come in a block, apparently those blocks can have up to 50 discharges in them. So they actually got footage of them all blasting off, and the person's fine was like $300,000. And obviously they negotiated, but each discharge is a separate finding. So there are some cities that are really taking this seriously, because in particular in this city, they actually had a child that was killed from a firework that kind of went sideways and hit the child. So they have a pilot program, but that was really interesting. And then we got a presentation from one of the sheriffs on jail litigation, and they were saying that juries are just going crazy with some of the awards on jail litigation. You know, things that it's like someone starts something, yet they actually get a reward from a jury, and I mean big reward. So that was interesting. Then let's see. Yesterday I attended the SCTA meeting. We approved the comprehensive transportation plan for Sonoma Marin, so that will take 3 years for them to kind of work through that plan, but we'll get more information on that. We also approved the Sync Sonoma Transit Agreement, so they're going to use a consultant to help the 3 transportation agencies kind of work together to kind of look at some of that. So there's 2 things going on with that. There's a program with Sonoma County Transit that's actually looking at its routes and things, but this is looking at all 3 overall to see if there's opportunity for kind of any kind of consolidation, but they're working together to do that. And then lastly, we approved a contract award with, what's it called? Ride Amigos, to help people with commute routes with carpooling and things like that. And it's apparently like a game, so you get like points and you can win things. And a key important part to that gets utilized is if you participate in this program and you have to come home, they will reimburse you for whatever travel is needed, be it an Uber ride or a bus, you know, whatever it is to get you home because of an emergency. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Now we'll go to this side. Councilmember Sparks, do you have anything?
I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you.
I've 2 meetings since our last one. There's the Measure O Oversight Committee met last week, and we got presentations from all of the crisis response teams in the county, from our SAFE, from In Response in Santa Rosa, and the county's MST. Got a little more familiar with the differences between the programs. They were, SAFE gave a great presentation with great stories of some of the impact that they've had in the community. But the fiscal picture going forward for Measure O is tight as federal supports for mental health services dwindle, and even more recently the state has pulled some support for specifically for crisis response, mental health crisis response, starting next February or March. So so things are looking a little grim for Measure O funding availability, and the director of the County Department of Health Services is pretty clear that he expects to see a unified mental health crisis response in the county within the next couple of years. So there's no indefinite county support for SAFE going forward. It's pretty clear. At the same time, Measure O is a critical backstop in the county for mental health services as federal funding dwindles, and it's coming up on its expiration in 2029, I think. So there's talk about getting the renewal underway, you know, thinking about how to run that campaign and what term to extend for. All that kind of stuff is going to be talked about coming up soon. I have passed out previously copies of the annual report, the Measure O annual report, that tells some of the stories of its impact, and I'll bring more in the future. The other event was I attended the Sonoma Clean Power Authority on Thursday as alternate because the mayor was unable to attend. The big item there was approving the Integrated Resource Plan, which is sort of the Sonoma Clean Power's plan for that guides its power purchases going forward. You know, what are the principles that guide our power purchases? And they are emphasizing power sources that reduce the need for increased increased transmission infrastructure. So these big transmission lines across the state that are currently, you know, billions and billions of dollars of upgrades needed, if, you know, in all the projections, that could be reduced dramatically if we produced a lot more power relatively locally. And so that's a big part of the goal. And it's interesting to watch over the years how the carbon reducing electric sources change. You know, 20 years ago, building solar was great. Then there was so much solar, now there's so much solar on the grid that wholesale prices for electricity in the middle of the day are negative. Like, they'll pay you to burn electricity. So batteries help push some of that offload to the evening, which is now the peak. But now we're at the point where batteries do that well enough that it's the seasonal variation that's the problem, and we need winter sources of electricity. So there are no batteries that are going to hold your electricity from August till January, and so that's the big push now. More wind, geothermal, that sort of stuff. Interesting to watch the process.
Okay, great, thank you. And I attended the Homeless Coalition Board meeting on May 27th, and Director Sullivan sent a timeline and a plan to implement changes that were identified through the MRG consultants that had reviewed the health department and homeless program, mental health. He also stated there's operational challenges and shared the comprehensive work plan to address them, along with who is assigned to it and what time frame. And also, we reviewed the COC renewal evaluation and project scoring. And many of the applications we learned are at risk, and it's unknown because of changes with federal HUD. And so they're looking at 30% cuts to permanent supportive housing. We also received a report that's been kind of going around with the update on federal HR 1 impacts, otherwise known as Chaos by Design. And the goal is for the county to keep folks enrolled in some of the safety net programs, which means hiring more staff to keep people enrolled because the recertification is increasing. At the same time, worst case, 11.5 thousand medical indigent may need to be enrolled in CMSP, the County Medical Service Plan, at a cost of $102.5 million. And then food programs, CalFresh, 4.7 thousand will be subject to work requirements. And the food bank stating that they may need up to $5 million annually to support food insecurity. So there's a lot of things going on, and so we got a good report on that. And I'll forward the letter that I got from Director Nolan Sullivan. Also, the ribbon, on May 28th, I went to the Sunflower Park ribbon cutting, and I was able to introduce Ashera Weiss, the mural artist, and also there was representatives from the playground design and landscaping and construction companies that worked on the project that were there as well. We had nice snacks and giveaways, and I want to thank Taqueria Solasteca for donating appetizers. They donated appetizers for the event. And I also went to the Revenue and Taxation Policy Committee online, the same one that Vice Mayor went to. One thing just that I wanted to mention from that one was that they mentioned the High Speed Rail Authority gave an update that they're trying to force cities where they have platforms they're forcing them into EIFDs to get additional funding for half-mile around the radius, which people were rolling their eyes type of thing, you know? And also the Jarvis tax measure qualified, and that's a business roundtable that we had mentioned in the past. They did talk about a few interesting bills, including a new sales tax on digital software and one on rounding up the penny, which could create maybe some new revenue. So revenue and taxation, I know that Vice Mayor discussed more about that as well. The Cotati Chamber of Commerce, I went to their meeting prior to this meeting, and the Cotati Music Festival is coming up on June 20th, and they're looking for volunteers. volunteers for the day. It's from 12 to 6, and they have a whole schedule of bands playing for the whole day. So if you're interested, please reach out to the Cotati Chamber if you would like to volunteer. So that's what I have on my calendar for today, on my record. So the next item we have is closed session. And for closed session, we will be going to conference with city labor negotiators, Government Code Section 54957.6, city designated representative, city manager or designee. Employee organization is the Cotati Employee Association, CEA, and Police Officers Association, POA. So we're going to take public comment on that before we go to closed session. Since there's no one in the room, can we go to Zoom?
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. There are no hands on Zoom. That will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So we're going into closed session and we'll return after that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Alec.
attorney. No, I won't get into trouble.
Okay, we're back from closed session, and there's nothing to report. And the next item we have is, information received after the agenda was posted.
Just the one comment mentioned earlier that was posted to the HTML agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So finally, we're adjourned at 8:55 PM. Thank you.